Hey guys, tonight we slip into the scratchy cloak of a medieval assassin. You're crouched in a rain-slick alley behind a bakery, where the bread smells great, but the gutters do not. It's the 13th century, and you've got a rusty dagger, a vague contract written in chicken scratch Latin, and absolutely no dental plan. Welcome to the world of medieval assassination. Less James Bond, more hope you don't sneeze while hiding in the hay. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, leave a comment with your location and what time it is where you are. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge through ankle-deep mud at dawn, the mist curling around your legs like some greasy ghost with boundary issues. You're dressed in wool that hasn't been dry since the Harvest Festival. Your boots squelch with every step, and you haven't eaten anything but turnip stew for 3 days. Assassin? That sounds glamorous now, like sleek hoods and rooftop parkour. But in your world, it mostly involves lurking in privies or smuggling pig guts out of kitchens for disguise. Your target? A minor noble who's gotten too cozy with a rival lord. His beard smells like pickled onions and his breath could strip paint. But he knows things, and somebody somewhere has decided he shouldn't know them anymore. You tail him through crooked alleyways, careful not to draw attention. But it's hard to stay unnoticed when your cloak is the only clean thing in town. And even that's a lie because it still smells faintly of old goat. Cities aren't made for subtlety. The cobblestones clatter underfoot. Every sneeze echoes off cathedral walls, and there's always some market vendor yelling about eels. Still, you're trained. Not officially, of course, there are no shiny assassin diplomas. But someone once taught you how to slip a blade under a rib without making a splash, and how to vanish into crowds that reek of tanneries and garlic. You've learned to hold your breath next to butcher's carts and to smile at guards even when your hands are blood warm and shaking. But the worst part isn't the violence, it's the waiting. Hours, sometimes days of pretending to be a tavern mop boy or a mute leper hoping to catch your quarry alone. The boredom gnaws at you worse than hunger. You start naming the rats, you sing lullabies to lice. You begin to wonder if maybe you missed your calling as a monk. At least they have books, and you can't trust anyone. Not your contact, not your informants, and certainly not the poison seller who swore that powder was only mildly fatal. Your guild, if you're part of one, is a tangled web of favors, threats, and mysterious dues that never seem to fund anything useful. Historians still argue whether most medieval assassin groups were tightly organized or just loosely affiliated lone wolves stabbing in the dark. In one city-state, you meet a contact who insists on passing messages hidden inside cured sausages. In another, your handler gets arrested for witchy blinking and vanishes forever. There's no HR department to file complaints. You've had to do your own dental work using a spoon and a prayer. And then there's the gear. You dream of sleek, perfectly balanced daggers or retractable blades, but what you get is more farmer's kitchen knife with a ribbon tied on. Your cloak keeps catching on nails. Your belt squeaks. Your shoes give you trench foot. If you're lucky, you've stashed a smoke bomb made from dried sheep dung and chalk. But even that's more dramatic in theory than execution. You stake out the target's manor for 5 nights. It's freezing, the dogs keep barking, and you're pretty sure the stable boy has seen you 3 times but is too bored to care. Finally, the noble stumbles out alone, tipsy and cursing the cold. You follow. Your hand rests on the hilt. It's time. But here's the catch. There's always a catch. Just as you move in, his bodyguard, previously passed out in a hay cart, burps, wakes up, and spots you. You dash. You leap a fence. You get stuck halfway. Not your best moment. Somehow you escape. You lie low. You change your name for the 4th time this year. This time you're Elias the Quiet, even though you snore like a millstone. You grow a beard just to look less assassin-y. You wait for the next job, and still, no glory, no treasure. Just more nights with your back against the damp walls of a rat-chewed cellar, listening to your heartbeat and trying not to sneeze on your own dagger. Mainstream fact? Many cities like Renaissance Venice employed spies and hired blades and complex webs of espionage, but pay was irregular and betrayal was common. Quirky tidbit? Some would-be assassins smeared themselves with animal dung to mask their scent when sneaking through guard dog territory. And remember, historians still argue whether many of these killings were part of larger political conspiracies, or just personal revenge with a fancy name. But for now, you're alive, if barely. And the only thanks you'll get is being forgotten or blamed if things go sideways. No statues for you, no songs. Just the knowledge that somewhere, someone still wants you dead. Probably over a botched sausage message. You wake up with straw in your mouth and a dull ache in your spine from sleeping under a wobbly wine cart. There's a bruise on your leg from something, or someone. And your dagger hand tingles like it's forgotten what quiet violence feels like. Another day, another chance to not die. This morning, you're summoned, well, more like vaguely beckoned, by your handler who may or may not be named Roland. He's the kind of man who always looks slightly wet, even when it hasn't rained in weeks. He slides you a coin-sized medallion with a serpent and a sunburst etched into it. That's your new job. That's your life now. You nod like you understand the full mission, but let's be honest, half the time you're guessing. No briefing rooms, no flowcharts. Just obscure symbols, vague warnings, and the occasional bottle of cheap wine as a bonus if you don't completely mess it up. You'd ask questions, but that's how you end up in a well with rocks tied to your boots. Time to prepare. You retreat to an abandoned chapel just outside town where the local assassin circle holds practice. That's what they call it. In reality, it's more like adult hide-and-seek with knives. You spar with a wiry woman named Merowyn who fights dirty and laughs louder than any monk ever dared. She disarms you twice, makes you bleed once, and steals your last bit of jerky as payment for character building. You train in things most people never think about. How to fall without a sound, how to fake a stumble that lands your blade exactly where you need it, how to blend into a crowd even when half your face is wrapped in linen due to last week's disguise fire. And then there are the oaths. To join a proper guild, if you're lucky enough to be invited, you swear loyalty on blades, bones, and things best left untranslated. Some groups require fasting, others insist on branding or tattooing strange sigils on places you hope no one ever sees. And if you break the rules? Let's just say one guy once said the wrong name aloud and now his nickname is One-Eared Tom. That's the nice version. Historians still argue whether these secret societies were structured like monastic orders or more like bandit crews with a reading problem. Either way, loyalty is the only currency that matters, and even that's a slippery thing. You're constantly looking over your shoulder, not just for enemies, but for colleagues who think your failure could mean their promotion.
You start forgetting things, though, like your real name, like where you came from. You lie so often that the lies begin to blend. Did you really serve in the militia of Dunmire? Or was that just a cover from last winter? Was your brother a blacksmith? Or was that someone else's brother? Someone you replaced? You can't write it down. Journals are dangerous. Memories are fragile. Sometimes you wake in the middle of the night with your hands clenched, heart racing, certain that something's coming, but there's nothing. Just an empty room, a snuffed candle, and the faint smell of old leather and regret. Mainstream fact? Medieval assassins were often used by powerful factions to eliminate rivals, especially during times of civil unrest like England's Wars of the Roses or the complex Guelph-Ghibelline conflicts in Italy. And remember, historians still argue whether such killings were strategic chess moves or acts of desperation by paranoid leaders losing their grip. But no matter the reason, you're the pawn, the shadow, the rumor they whisper in dark hallways. And tonight, as you lie beneath the rafters of another nameless inn, listening to the mice chew through someone else's dreams, you wonder, how many more before someone finally sees through you? Before the dagger turns your way? One day someone won't miss. And it'll be your name scratched onto a backroom ledger. crossed out with the words "job complete" beside it. You're older now, though not by much. Just enough to feel the weight in your knees after a sprint and to wince every time the weather shifts. Your fingers crack when you grip your blade, and there's a stiffness in your joints that no amount of stretching or wine can fix. Not that you'd call it retirement. That's not really a thing for people in your line of work. You either disappear or you get disappeared. This time, the job smells wrong from the start. You're hired by a merchant, too polite, too clean, to take out a problem up north. He hands you a ring with a hidden compartment, perfect for poison. You're supposed to slip it on, shake hands with the target, and let history do the rest. Elegant, silent, a little theatrical. But you've seen too much to believe in easy. So you test the poison first. A drop on a rat's tongue. Nothing. Then another. Still nothing. On the third try, the rat sneezes and explodes. Okay, not literally, but close enough. Turns out the poison's delayed. 4 days of dizziness. Then a spectacular demise involving seizures and purple froth. Not exactly subtle. You ditch the poison. Too risky. Too noisy. Instead, you go with your old standby. A simple blade, blackened with soot tucked into your boot. Low tech, sure, but dependable. You trust it more than you trust that merchant's smile. Honestly, you trust the rats more than you trust merchants these days. Your journey takes you through plague-riddled towns and across muddy roads crowded with pilgrims and thieves dressed as pilgrims. You trade stories with a chimney sweep who may have killed a bishop. You sleep in a barn full of goats who snore like thunder. You get sick, bad bread probably, and spend 2 days hallucinating that you're being hunted by a talking chicken. You arrive in the target village with a limp and a fever. You try to blend in by pretending to be a traveling healer. You wrap people's knees in cabbage leaves and mumble about humors. No one questions you. In fact, they offer you more patience. A woman asks if you can cure hiccups in cows. You say, only on Tuesdays. You spot your target on the third day, a lanky man with a red cap and a habit of chewing parsley. He doesn't look dangerous. He looks like someone's cousin who reads too many scrolls. But word is, he's passing secrets to someone who wants to start a rebellion. The job is clear, but your gut won't settle. Historians still argue whether medieval assassins ever went rogue, refused missions on moral grounds, changed targets, even faked deaths to let innocents go. Some say that's just romantic nonsense. Others believe those stories are why the guilds eventually fell apart. Either way, tonight, you hesitate. You follow Redcap through winding alleys, wait until he's alone behind the stables, and you step out from the shadows. He turns. He knows. He doesn't run, just stares. I figured someone would come, he says. I'm glad it's you. That's what breaks you. Not fear, not anger, that quiet acceptance. You lower the blade. Instead, you tell him to run. Change his name. Head west. Disappear. You vanish too. Let the guild think you finished the job. Burn the ring. Send a note, short and cryptic. Job's done. No complications. That should buy you time. Maybe a few months, maybe a year. But now, you're hunted. They won't send amateurs. They'll send someone like you. And you know all your tricks. Every hiding place, every false identity, every route out of every crumbling city. You know because you made them up. So you run. You grow a beard. You limp more than you need to, just in case someone's watching. You speak in a whisper and forget to laugh. You hear a footstep in the rain and draw your blade before you know why. You spend time in a monastery pretending to be mute. You wash floors and carve wooden spoons. It's not peace, but it's quieter than you remember the world being. You think maybe you could fade away here. But one night, you catch a glimpse of someone too clean, too still, watching from the trees. You don't sleep again for 3 nights. Mainstream fact? Some medieval monasteries became informal safe havens for fugitives under the complex rules of sanctuary. Though even those protections had limits, especially when royal or papal interests were involved. Fringe tidbit? There's a theory, mostly laughed off by scholars, that some assassins used coded lullabies as part of their ritual training, calming themselves before missions by singing songs only other initiates would recognize. Maybe you hummed one once before your first job. The truth is, there's no after. No countryside cottage, no last job before retirement. There's only distance and quiet. Only the hope that the past doesn't find you. But sometimes, in the still hours before dawn, you let yourself remember. Not the deaths, not the lies. The brief, strange moments in between. When you helped a child find her missing goat. When you danced in a rainstorm with a woman who never asked your name. When you sat by a fire and listened to an old knight recite poetry he'd written during a siege. You were a shadow. But even shadows touch the world now and then. And maybe that's enough. Wind down now. Your boots sit by the door, empty and caked in years of dust. The dagger stays under your pillow, not out of habit anymore, but because it makes the mattress feel familiar. You haven't spoken your real name in a decade, and maybe that's for the best. The road behind you stretches longer than the one ahead. It's a tapestry of foggy mornings and whispered names, of broken packs and quiet escapes. Your hands still move on instinct, but slower now, like they remember the weight of every choice, every blade. Outside, the wind rustles the trees in soft sighing patterns. Somewhere in the woods, an owl calls, a single low note. You breathe in the scent of old wood and dry leaves, and you let it anchor you. No more missions, no more masks, just the sound of your own breathing, and the small, uncertain peace that comes from surviving longer than you were ever meant to. The world will move on, forgetful and restless. The guilds will vanish or evolve into something else entirely. But for now, for tonight, you're safe. The fire burns low. The air is cool against your cheek. And your story, wild and winding, has finally come to rest. So close your eyes. Let the tension melt from your shoulders. The night is long, but gentle.